Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Two Blokes Rank series. I'm here with my friend Jack.
Hi everybody, my name is Jack.
And today we're covering a very different artist than the last one. We're doing the Eagles, or actually just Eagles.
The logical next step.
Yeah, logical next step.
First you review the discography of Taylor Swift and then you rank the discography of the Eagles.
Yeah, but
That's just 101.
pretty popular band, one of the most popular American bands, I would say, right?
I would say so.
Yeah, and how familiar were you with the Eagles?
Not as much as I thought I was, to be completely honest. I knew their hits. I knew all the songs that everybody else knew. Knew a few deep tracks that I really liked, so I was excited to do this. But yeah, there was a lot of surprises for me just in general.
Yeah,
in their discography.
When I was a youngin', I had the Eagles' greatest hits, not the one that sold like a ton in the 70s, but like a 2-disc one. So I knew a good bit of this stuff, and I heard Hotel California, the album, all the way through before.
I'd never heard any album all the way through. Sat down and listened to
that's the only one I heard all the way through. So I wasn't wouldn't say I was knew their discography inside out though. I knew the hit. I guess I would say I probably knew all the album singles, except for the newest album.
There was, I think, 2 albums where I didn't know any songs. It was the newest one and On the Border.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I guess we'll cut into it.
I started first last time, so
I was
you
gonna
can
say I'll
start
start first this time,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be going deep here. Got a cup of tea, and then I'm gonna burn the crap out of my lips with. Man.
I saw it steaming.
It's steaming. I'm gonna take another sip real quick.
The 2 very small sips.
Yeah, it's hot. Like I said,
I'm
it's
not
hot.
saying it's a bad thing. I'm
Look,
just
it's
pointing
hot.
it out.
All right. So I'm gonna start. We're gonna go deep. I guess.
Mhm.
I guess we should.
From last to first.
Yeah, we should. I guess we'll talk about a little bit about the band members as we go along. Probably get a general idea of who we like, because they're unlike other bands in our last discog we did. This is
Many
much
different singers.
of a group effort.
Yeah, very much a group effort. Yeah,
So
that's good.
my last one, and it's by a long shot. It's not even really close, and I'll be pretty shocked if it's not Jack's. And I'm giving it a 3 out of 10, which means it's
Pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It's not good. It is Long Road Out of Eden. And, damn, it is an hour and a half, on the dot, I think. And it's their first album since 79. And
Came out in 2007.
Came out in 2007. And Jesus Christ, dude. Let me start with the good things about it. The production is well done. I think, the performances are fine. But the problem is, number one, it's so damn long.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they hadn't been a band for a while. They came back to... Well, that's not true. They had been a band for a while, because they did
They've
that...
been playing.
Yeah, they did that acoustic album.
Yeah, and they came out with an album in '94. It was a live album, but still.
Yeah, and it's the first one, I think, since, Don Felder wasn't on it, so it was Glenn Fry, whatever his last name is, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, King.
And Timothy B. Schmidt on bass and vocals, Don Henley, and
Joe Walsh was on there.
Joe Walsh, that's right. And dude, it's just a hot mess. I mean, it opens with just some harmonized vocals, and I feel like I'm hearing some pitch correction on there.
Oh,
some digital pitch correction.
Oh,
so
100%. But also, spoiler, that also was my number 7, and it was not close.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like that problem, I didn't necessarily have as much of a problem with the pitch correction, because they're 60 or 7. I get it.
But their voices still sound good.
Right.
And then it immediately goes into the song "How Long," which is just total bro country.
Oh yeah.
Which I was not expecting. I'm like, what? And then, there are some songs where I'm like, all right, "Busy Being Fabulous," as stupid as it is, it's got a hook, and but it just never, let me pull my airplane mode on real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, folks, but yeah. Then Joe Walsh sings one, which is also just fucking horrible, and it keeps going. Something about waiting in the weeds that one's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it goes on for too long, and the song "Long Right Out of Eden" is like a freaking 10-minute song.
Yeah, that was.
You got that guitar instrumental, which is probably the highlight of the album, but it's still not. It's not that cool. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the ending sucks. The last song, the Glenn Fry one, it was bittersweet because that's the last song he would ever do with them, obviously.
Right.
And it sounds like Jimmy Buffett though.
Yeah.
Who I'm not a big fan of, and I like to watch women dance. That's just like creepy.
Yeah, that
And
was
the worst
that was
Eagles
creepy.
song, and I forget the name of it. That second one that Joe Walsh sings
You think that was the worst one?
is so bad.
That's
It's
not
like
my
he's
worst
like it sounded like he just like made a beat, and he's like, "Wow, that's cool, man." And the thing is, it's weird because it sounds like they're still trying to experiment,
Yeah.
but it's just like, guys, no one wants this.
That's what I kind of said in mine because again that was also with a score of 4 out of 10, got 1 point higher than Liam. Was also Long Road.
Oh, and
Long Road Out
also,
of
it's Fast Company. That song stinks too.
Mm.
That's just that sounds like something like. It sounds like radio country, like trying to be like upbeat and rock.
You know what?
But it's worse than radio country.
You know what, Liam? I had Fast Company as my favorite song on that album
Really?
because it was so.
It sounds like a
it was
shitty
so
stripper
crazy.
song.
It was so crazy. I was like, man, what the hell is this? But in kind of a fun way. Because to what you said as well, that album, I think there's another album that we'll get to later, which is an example of them trying new things and it working. And this was an album of them trying new things and it not working at all.
Yeah.
I think it was, like you said, just like bro 2007 country.
Yeah.
And I was
And
like,
their vocals
damn.
are fine. Like, to their credit, like,
Some songs were better than
You know,
others, but yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Don Henley still sounds like Don Henley.
Right.
Joe Walsh still sounds like Joe Walsh.
Mhm.
Glenn Fry. I feel like you can maybe hear a little wear and tear on him. And Timothy B. Schmidt, he's still got the real silky smooth thing.
I liked all their voices on this album. There wasn't really like there was one that the guy just like threw out, which I guess I can get into it now because we're doing the video. There's one guy threw out that I didn't really like his voice on pretty much anything was Don Henley.
Oh.
He was probably my least, and I think that's probably gonna. I don't like his voice. I just don't really like it that much, and I knew that you probably like him the most or second most.
I like Don Henley's voice the most.
Yeah, I knew that was
just-
going to be a point of
I
contention.
like he's slick, and I will say, and I'll get more into this. I think there were some people I thought I was a little bit moved around what I would have thought, who I would have thought I liked most and who I liked less. But yeah, it's just literally like dentist office, walk around Target music. That's what it
Yeah.
is. It is
Yeah.
pretty bad.
I didn't like
It's
it.
not as bad as like other stuff I've heard. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it up there with like Lulu with Metallica and Lou Reed, but
Yeah.
that I almost respect more.
I will. Another
'Cause
thing I
this
want
is
to
just like, ah.
Another thing I want to say. There's two more things I want to say on this album. I do agree that that Joe Walsh like instrumental song is one of the best on the
I
album.
think that's Joe Walsh playing because
I
there
would
was
assume
also
it
a lot
is.
of session guys on there.
I would assume it was
There's no
Joe
more
Walsh.
Don Henley,
But-
Felder.
This entire album, I feel like they probably knew that this was going to be their last album, and so I was like, that's a really good like Joe Walsh swan song. Because I'll also say this throughout this entire thing, I'll get more into it later, but the guitar duo of Joe Walsh and Don Felder have risen in my ranks astronomically.
For guitar duos.
Oh my god, they might be number one now. Like,
oh man, wow.
like, it was, I don't know, like, I was blown away by how good both they were. But anyway, I don't know if they're number one. That might have been an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But they're probably definitely top 5 now. But anyway, so that was a good, like, Joe Walsh swan song. And also, the last song on this album, I was like, again, they probably know this is going to be it. This is going to be their swan song. And it's literally called I think it's Your World Now.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is this? It sounded like I was expecting to like feel a little emotional because like this is the last Eagles song.
But
This
it's
is
so
the Eagles.
bad that you just can't feel
But I was
emotional.
like, what the fuck, dude? This
Yeah.
is like it's literally sounded like something that would play at like a Mexican restaurant.
But like,
I was
it's like
what?
it sounds like it would play at a Mexican restaurant, but it was like something that like came already downloaded for free, like
Yeah.
free for a YouTube video made in 2009 on like Windows Media Player with Glenn Frey singing.
Yeah. So that's essentially not my favorite.
So I guess God, we've talked about Long Road Out. It deserves a lot of talk now because it is just a. I mean, I feel like people don't even realize it exists for good reason. But I am curious how much Jack and I align. I don't know how much.
I
we
knew
will,
that
to be
was.
honest.
I was like, that's definitely.
I had a feeling you would rank it a little higher than me. You gave it a
Really?
4. I gave it a 3.
Oh yeah.
But I forget what I have.
It was a chore to get through.
3 means on my ranking scale is like it's not unlistenable, but it's
not good.
damn bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, and so my number 6 then, and this for me was by far the most disappointing Eagles album. I thought it was going to be possibly my number 1, and boy was I wrong. I got The Long Run at 5 out of 10.
Wow.
And I knew a lot of songs on this. The Long Run, obviously, I know that song, which is nice, little R&B flavor. And I think, upon reading about the history of the Eagles, it seemed like Glenn Frey and Don Henley were always pushing to make it more of a rock band.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the album where they finally did it, but I think the creative juices were starting to flow at that time.
Mm-hmm.
In the City, that's a very popular one. That's kind of like Joe Walsh's Eagles song, I feel like. I think he apparently even wrote it before he pitched it to them. And, Timothy B. Schmidt, the only noteworthy thing he does with the Eagles, which I was a little surprised by because I knew who he was.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you why. That's a great ballad. And then, this is one of those albums where the hits are the best thing and the deep cuts, I'm just like, jeez, what? Like, the Disco Strangler, it's like, oh yeah, they hate disco. And I'm like, so you make this? This is, this is a piece of crap, this song. The vocal melody, like, all-time bad vocal melody from Don Henley. And then, like, Glenn Frey does, like, a couple real weird ones, like Teenage Jail, which kind of sounds like a Kiss song almost.
Yeah. I like that one, though.
And then King of Hollywood, where they're it's almost like ahead of its time to an extent because it sounds almost like a mid-'80s song. And I just think the vocal style, he didn't strive at. And just, it was kind of long. The lyrics I thought were pretty bad on that one. I mean, I get what they were going for. Yeah, it's just, Sad Cafe is okay. It's a cheesy ballad, but I like the electric piano and saxophone. Heartache Tonight, that's a radio classic. Bob Seger, who I like a lot, helped write that one, which I thought was a cool aside, but it was just messy. And my favorite song on it, though, Those Shoes, is awesome. I mean, I'm with you. I was aware of Don Felder and Joe Walsh, but yeah, they do work incredibly well together, and them both playing talk box together.
That was
very cool.
That was awesome.
And I mean, they do the 3 guitar attack thing really well because Glenn Frey also plays guitar pretty well throughout the albums. But yeah, I mean the Joe Walsh's slide, and Don Felder are the highlight of that album because that's really their album. Their guitar playing shines more than the writing does, and so I don't know. Greeks can't be freaks. Like, they were trying to throw it back to like a mid-'60s thing, and I was like, that's a cool idea, but the execution, eh.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. That's my number 6. I didn't like it a lot. It's pretty average, 5 out of 10 for the long run.
Yeah, I have some things to say about that, but I'll wait until it gets on my ranking because my number 6 is not the long run. It is On the Border. Gave it a 6.5 out of 10. This is where I truly don't think, other than Long Road Out of Eden, the Eagles have a bad album.
Okay.
I think On the Border was just mainly just forgettable, especially coming after Desperado. It sounds kind of similar to Desperado, similar enough. This is what I was also talking about. They had a lot of different styles that I was not necessarily ready for. Because, when I think of I don't know if this is just me, but when I think of the Eagles, well, I guess before this, I just think of like Southern California.
Yeah, SoCal sound. For
yeah,
sure.
SoCal, like yacht rock, soft rock type of sound. But there's a lot of different noises that they play with. A lot of like country southern rock, which I was not ready for, which we'll get more to in Desperado. But yeah, this one was just kind of forgettable. It had some high points on some songs. I forget which ones exactly I wrote down, but I just remember in the middle, like when I was in the middle of all of it, it all just kind of blended together, and not necessarily in a good way. They just kind of, like, I felt like I could just hit shuffle play and not really know which song was what, and just be like, okay, this is just an on the border song. I think I could kind of hear some sounds that they would either explore later way better on other albums, or that they had done on Desperado that they had done better. It was just like an Eagles album, the worst Eagles album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Long Run Out of Eden is kind of just like,
That,
what the hell is even
that?
that?
That barely counts as
Yeah.
an Eagles album.
Yeah.
That is like.
And again, it wasn't bad. That's the other nice thing about these albums; they were quick. So like,
Except for Long Run Out of Eden.
except
God
for
damn.
yeah, except for Long Run Out of Eden. So yeah, it wasn't like offensively bad or anything. It was just kind of forgettable. Don't really remember too much off of it, to be completely honest. And that kind of, I think, tells you what you need to know. But again, it got a 6.5 out of 10. So
Yeah,
that's not a bad score at all. I really don't think that they have a bad album other than the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I got my number. I guess it would be 5, right?
Yeah.
I got the one after that, One of These Nights, which the title track. God, I've always loved that song, and Don Felder's guitar solo in that, so good, dude. Don Felder, I think, is my favorite Eagles guitar player in the context of the Eagles, at least. His lead playing is so smooth and nice, and they start exploring the funky disco sound. And here's the last one with Bernie Ledden, who I like Bernie Ledden. I thought he was a really cool guy in the Eagles. I knew who he was. I didn't know he sang so much, and I didn't realize how talented he was. And that's the thing about I think something I take away from the Eagles is everyone in that band was so damn talented.
Yeah.
At least not only just their instruments but writing. But where this one falls short for me is it's so schmaltzy in spots. Like, Hollywood Waltz is pretty lame. Too Many Hands from Randy Meisner, who is I started this off not liking Randy Meisner's voice, but he really grew on me. I think he's a pretty cool singer. I think that was a good song. It's the only one with Don Felder singing the song, which I didn't like. Visions, I thought was a pretty lame song. But Lion Eyes, damn, that's a great ballad. And something I noted, it's really long though, and it doesn't feel long. I'm like, that is good. And
Yeah.
Going into this, I didn't like Glenn Frey very much. I always thought he sung their lame songs, but he really grew on me upon listening to this.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's weird because reading their history, he was always the guy. Seemed like he's like, I want to be in a rock band, but he always sings the country ballads.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird, but yeah. Just I think this might be one of the most forgettable albums.
What was this for you?
6 out of 10.
Okay.
So it's above average.
Nice.
That last song, I Wish You Peace, is like Bernie Ledden's swan song for the
That-
band. And I'm like, dude, what a horrible way to go out.
Dude, I love that song, dude. I loved it.
Dude, the jazzy change,
man.
it just is bad. And Don Henley hates that song too. He's
Really?
like, I wish that wasn't the Eagles song. And also Ronald Reagan's daughter, who he was dating, helped write that song, which I think,
Wow.
adds to it being lame.
Yeah, no.
And they were very upset
I
she
agree.
got a writing credit.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and then Bernie Ledden does Journey to the Sorceress, which I think is pretty forgettable, honestly. Like
Journey to the Sorcerer?
Yeah, I think people like that one a lot, and I like whenever he plays banjo, but he just really seems like he's having trouble fitting in the band at this point, and his contributions are starting to sound really out of place.
Yeah. That song is very out of place.
It's cool. I just don't. It's not one of my more favorite instrumental tracks. And After the Thrill Is Gone, dude, Don Henley's vocal on that I love. I love Don Henley's vocal on that. I like the ones where him and Glenn split it up. I think that is always a good formula. Yeah, I thought it was all right. The title track is obviously a classic. Lion Eyes is a classic. Um, and then there's stuff mixed in, but overall it's a little mellow. It's a little sleepy. That album, probably the most sequence wise worst. One of these nights, above average, 6 out of 10. That was fine.
Okay. Well, with my number 5, with a 6.5 out of 10, the same score as On the Border, is Desperado. The only reason that I gave Desperado the nod over On the Border is because I think thematically it's really cool, like what the story of the album is about, and the song and like the songwriting and everything I think is pretty good. But again, I just think that they all kind of blend together towards the middle. Like when it first starts, it's cool with Duel and Dan. I think is the first
Duel and Dalton,
or Duel and Dalton rather. My bad. That's a cool song. It's different. It's so different than pretty much anything on the debut. Because it's like a southern rock album basically, and you're like, all right, this is cool. But again, with me, it just kind of got repetitive, and everything just blended in together too much for me. And I was like, I would never really listen to this album again going forward, like from front to back.
Yeah.
There are some good moments on it for sure, but again, it just kind of all blended together. I think that they still were very much trying to figure out what they wanted to do. I think if you look at their first like 4 albums, I mean really honestly all their albums, you can kind of see that it is, like you said, everybody kind of throwing ideas together. But the weird thing is that it either works really, really well, or it's kind of like so again, I think that the story and what this album is about is really cool. It's about like 3 like outlaw brothers that
sort of the Von Erichs.
yeah, essentially about the Von Erichs. Yeah, so that's a cool story. So that's why I got the nod over to On the Border. But other than that, they're better Eagles albums. And again, 6.5 out of 10 is not bad. It's not a bad album at all. But it's just there's better other Eagles albums out there.
And you're ranking this off of your own opinion,
right? If I'm ranking it off of what I think is like the best, I think that the album changes around certainly more than the Taylor Swift rankings did.
Yeah.
But I think if we're even ranking it based off best versus my favorite, number 7 and number 1 both stay the same. Yeah. But everything else might change. Number 7, damn
Would you
sure.
say Long Road Out of Eden is one of the worst albums you ever heard?
It might be. Yeah,
pretty bad.
It's just it was certainly. I can't remember not wanting to finish an album.
So you haven't gotten to your worst Eagles song yet, is that correct?
No, I've not.
Oh man. Wow, I have no idea what's going to be. That's freaking good.
I will say my worst. Let me see what ranking my worst Eagles song comes on the 3rd best album.
I think we're liking the Eagles more than I expected we would.
I honestly,
I think I found more listens. I always thought they were an NPC band, and I still do. They're definitely like a boomer's darling.
They've grown.
But they've grown on
way more than they were.
So yeah, my number, I guess 4 then.
4, yeah.
I'm bumping it up to 7 out of 10. I mean, I think it's a good album. This one probably grew on me the most. On the Border, dude. This is the one where Don Felder's first, not as a full-time member, but I've always loved Already Gone. That's just such a kick-ass, like, driving down the highway song.
Yeah.
And
I will also say that on the Border and Desperado, I did pretty much every album. There are fantastic summer driving songs on there.
Man.
Oh my god. Eagles might be certainly an S tier summer driving band.
For sure, bro.
Oh my god.
And this one, I think Glyn Johns, I don't know if this was his last one producing or if one of these nights was, but he was really telling them, like, you guys are a country rock band. You guys are not rock and roll. And I think Glenn Fry and Don Henley were really starting to be like, we're itching to do some more hard-hitting stuff. Hence, Don Felder, who plays some nice slide throughout the album. And this one, I think, could be higher with time even. I think where it falls flat is the variety doesn't work in its favor. I think this is one of the ones where it feels like everyone's on a different page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, but I don't really think there's any bad songs on it except for two, which are both Glenn Frey songs. James Dean is, for a song called James Dean, it's so damn lame. And
Yeah.
Good Day in Hell, I don't like that one either. But other than that, man, like, Best of My Love is a weird way to close it. I think that's kind of a weird decision, but what's that one song, You Never Cry? When, something like that is like, just comes out of the gate and you're like, okay, this is now Don Henley is starting to take control a little more of the band.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Bernie Leadon's tribute to his friend Graham Parsons, who he was also in the Flying Burrito Brothers with, who are a very, very kind of like cult following, like country rock band, and I thought that was a touching tribute. Man, what else? They got a Tom Waits cover on here, and this is before Tom Waits was like anyone, and they're like, that's cool. So Old 55 is a Tom Waits song, and I probably like Tom Waits' version more, but dude, they killed that one. I love when, like I said, when Don Henley and Glenn Frey sing together, it's awesome. Midnight Flyer is kind of like, okay, are we still doing this now? Like, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What else is on there? I mean, it's a good album. I would listen to this one again. This one probably would grow on me the most. The variety is cool, but also works against it. But I think we're getting like a best of the Eagles sound, because I think you were gonna find out what I gravitate towards from these guys sooner than later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, On the Border. I thought of it. Oh, the song On the Border is so lame. It starts off so cool, like that guitar riff is so great, and then it just goes funky. Which usually you'd be like, for me, I'm like, that's
hell
like.
yeah.
I'm usually like,
Yeah.
that's what's up. But it's too random. Like, they have the worst produced hand claps ever.
Oh yeah.
And they go back
my
to
God.
that sound a long road to Eden on one
yeah.
song. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I picked up on that.
guys, come on. And I'm just the worst
I forgot
hand
about that.
claps.
You're right.
And that
Those hand
song
claps
is
were
the
bad.
biggest wasted opportunity
Yeah.
that I've ever heard. 'Cause it has potential to be like so cool, but they weren't ready to rock yet, man. Glenn
No.
Johns, the producer, is right. You guys aren't the Who. You guys can't rock yet. Stick to the country.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a way they did that, but pretty solid album. I like it. 7 out of 10. It's a good
All
album.
right. So what am I at? Number 4?
Number 4.
My number 4, also with a 7 out of 10. So again, we're in the good territory now. I have their debut, the Eagles' debut. First and foremost, Take It Easy is an all-time debut song.
Yeah,
That's
a great one.
Oh, baby boy.
Yeah.
That song, again, summertime driving song.
Yeah, it's a
That's
great
like
song.
peak summertime driving song. But yeah, that is a great song. I was tempted to give it a 10 out of 10. There's 2 10 out of 10s I have.
Oh, albums?
No, songs.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
But I was tempted to give that one a 10 out of 10, but I didn't. I gave it a 9.5 just because I was like, there's some others later that are better. But yeah, I really think that it's a fantastic debut album. I'm surprised that it's not honestly talked about a little bit more among like not best debut albums of all time.
I think it was on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest.
But yeah, it should be I think talked about. Honestly, yeah, the other thing about the Eagles that I don't know if I mentioned this on the Desperado or on the Border thing, but there's always one song on each of the first I think 3 or maybe even 4 albums that sound like just straight up Foghat. that if you were in this one, Chug All Night.
Yeah.
I was like, if you were to play this and not tell me who it is, I'd be like, this is a Foghat song.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's so out of place. That's the other thing about this album that it's all over the place, which sometimes is cool, but other times it's not. Like they have Take It Easy, Peaceful Easy Feeling that are like the Eagles songs. It's I think on my thing about Peaceful Easy Feeling, I literally was like, I would not be surprised if the critics heard this album or like the record label heard this album and said do more of that in the future. Obviously with the following albums that didn't really happen. It happened with like way down the road, but with Desperado and On the Border that didn't happen. But there's some like southern country rock type stuff. There's Chug All Night, which is like hard rock. It's kind of all over the place. There's nothing that's really like bad about it. I wish that it would have stayed more. I like the like soft rock, like what the Eagles are known for type of sound the most. So I wish obviously that they would have stayed with that, but there was nothing bad about this album. So I think it was a really 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 good debut album, and they just kind of needed to hone a little bit more, and yeah, they would have gotten there.
Yeah, hell yeah. So that was your number 4. So my number 3, which is my most controversial pick, I would say, because I know this is like a top 100 album ever,
Mm-hmm.
but the 7 out of 10, meaning I still think it's good, is Hotel California. It's the first with Joe Walsh, who's kind of a weird addition to the band, because you think of like his solo stuff and the James Gang.
Mm-hmm.
He was like a hard rock guy, but I think once Bernie Ledden left, I think they felt that was probably their opportunity to jump at what they had been wanting to do, and they're like, oh, Joe Walsh, that's a great fit for us, which I like Joe Walsh. I think he's a great guitarist. I think some of his own stuff is cool. I don't know how much I like him as an Eagle, though, personally. But Don Felder comes out the gate swinging with Hotel California.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, is one of those overplayed classic rock songs that honestly, like, I don't put it on, but I'm not really sick of it. Like, it's such
Yeah,
a great,
I agree.
it's an amazing written song. That guitar solo is
All time.
I totally agree.
Solo.
That is such a great solo.
It is a
And
really good solo.
back to what Jack said, Don Felder and Joe Walsh they played great together. Like, they really were listening to each other play. So that's cool. But my problem with this album is it kind of like, I feel like they're making a promise to you and they don't follow through with it because, and I'm with you, Jack. I don't need the Eagles to be a hard rock band, but they really want it to be, and I don't think they strive at it.
Yeah.
New Kid in Town is a cool one. Also, this is essentially a Don Henley solo album, just about.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
a lot of Don Henley.
Yeah.
So I think Life in the Fast Lane is a great guitar rock song. But yeah, the end of this album, first of all, why haven't Joe Walsh sing a piano ballad? that always confused me when I heard this album. I was like, Pretty Maids All in the Row, one of the worst Eagles songs in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, not a fan of that one. But like I said, Randy Meisner, Try and Love Again, that one grew on me. I like that song a lot. Last Resort, I just really don't like that song. It's too damn long. The melody sucks. The lyrics suck. I feel like Don Henley just invented adult contemporary right there, which he would, in a solo career, really pursue a lot. But, yeah, the best part of the album is Wasted Time reprising the Victim of Love, which I had known Victim of Love before.
Yeah.
Dude, from the reprise of Wasted Time, which is my favorite of the more schmaltzy ones on the album, into Victim of Love, that is the best Eagles moment, period. And Victim of Love, Don Henley, dude, slept on drummer, I realized, on that song.
Oh, yeah. He's
First
really
of all,
good.
I really like his vocals. I know Jack's not a fan. That doesn't really surprise me, personally, but, dude,
What can I say?
his drumming, and...
oh, no, he's a very good drummer.
I don't know who plays lead on that song. I feel like it's probably Joe Walsh. That slide solo, knees, yeah. That's some great guitar playing. Not a lot of Glenn Frey on this album, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But as far as like making an album where I feel like they were trying to be like, we want to make the California album. Similar to how like, I don't know, someone would like, someone like Billy Joel is like New York.
Yeah.
They're like California.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably one of the more overrated like albums in the world, but it's still solid. It has its merits. I just think the end really just kills it for me.
Okay. So I'm at my number 3. At number 3, I have The Long Run. I think that this is an example of them trying to do new stuff and it working.
What do you give it out of 10?
Let me see. I gave it a 7.5.
I give it 5, which means for me,
That's not.
and I was tinkering with putting it at 4. I think.
Damn.
I don't think it's.
I was thinking of putting it at 8.
Yeah, I don't know
I will
why.
say,
I feel
though,
like that would have been one that I liked.
this has the worst Eagles song, in my opinion.
Oh, let's hear it.
The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
I heard this, I was like, nah, okay. But again, I think it was way more out of a respect. Like, I respect it. Because, again, this album had the Herculean task of following Hotel Frickin' California.
And they also took their sweet time with it, too.
Yeah,
Which
that's
for a
true, they
70s
did.
band, that's like...
Yeah.
They must have broken up.
Yeah. And so, like, I always respect when you have an album that is, I think, a top 5 selling album of all time. Like, a ridiculous, I think it was 26 times platinum. Like, an insane success. And they kind of tried something new, which, listening to the Eagles' discography, that's kind of what they did. Pretty much the entire time. Like, each album kind of sounded a little bit different, with, some exceptions, I guess, with, like I said, On the Border and Desperados kind of sounded similar. But they tried new things. I think a lot of these songs just hit for me. I think you said you didn't like Teenage Jail. I love that
It's
song.
messy. This is a messy album.
I loved it. I think
The
that
solo.
I think that I was just like, yeah, they're just trying new stuff, and they're not trying to make Hotel California 2, which I know that I probably should be like listening to these albums individually, which I do for the most part. But again, when you have the task of trying to make a new album after something like Hotel California, I just like that. It worked for me. I think that they got in, they got out, they did what they needed to do. I think I remember the production on this album I thought was pretty good. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I respected it a lot. I think it just hit for me. I liked it.
Well, Jack,
Sorry, Liam.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I'm disappointed in you.
I'm sorry.
But that's your number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Time for my number 2, which is also a 7 out of 10. Meaning I think it's pretty darn good. And this one, just tinkering with putting it at number 3, but upon listening to it again, I realized this one just speaks to me more, and that is the debut.
Mm.
And I guess I'll just say it now. Country rock Eagles, for me, is the best Eagles. And, it is definitely all over the place. Chug All Night is kind of like, But, they were still young at the time, and I know Glenn Frey wanted to really push in a rock direction, which makes no sense, because he always sings the country ballads.
Mm.
And Randy Meisner, and Bernie Ledden, who kind of pioneered the genre, honestly, with his last band, were very into country and not into rock. And at this point, Don Henley, which surprises me that Jack doesn't like this more than, because John Henley was basically like not a singer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him, they had Witchy Woman, then gave another one. And it's just kind of like one of those albums that you just put on. It's just, I kind of like that. It's just like, hey, here are 10 songs. We're not trying anything crazy here. Bernie Ledden, really like his voice a lot, and the style he brings to the band with I forgot the name of the damn song. The mellow one, Train Leaves Town. Take It Easy. Yeah, they get Jackson Brown, who's awesome singer-songwriter. Probably like him even more than the Eagles, so that would be interesting to hear what Jack thinks about him if we ever get around to him one of these days. But yeah, he writes some stuff on this, which I think is a great idea on their part to have a guy who is very successful help. Peaceful Easy Feeling, Bernie Ledden, one of the sickest Eagles guitar solos.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Bernie Ledden, I think, is a very slept on guitar player. And then Tryin', that's a cool one. There's some filler on it. It's a 7 out of 10. It's good. I don't think it's excellent or anything. I think it's just nothing bad on it. Early Bird, the beginning is like from a sound library I read. You can tell because it's really bad.
Yeah.
But then it picks up, and the banjo is really cool. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good album. Oh, Take the Devil from Randy Meisner, really good song. I think he's an excellent bassist and singer. So yeah, awesome. I don't really have a ton to say about it because I think it's pretty cut and dry, and I think that's what I like about it. I think that's where the Eagles start to lose me later on. is when they really bite off more than they can chew.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this. I like that lineup of the band a lot. I like Bernie Ledden as a writer and instrumentalist a lot. That's my number 2. 7 out of 10. Eagles.
All right. So my number 2 is an 8.5 out of 10. Good album. I think it's a very good album. It's one of these nights. I think that this is kind of when they first started to find their sound that would make them hugely famous on the next album. And I just like it. I like that sound. I think it is like pretty quintessential Southern California, soft rock. And I think you said this earlier. You said you didn't like Journey to the Sorcerer. That is 1 out of 2 songs I gave a 10 out of 10, baby. Oh my God, I love that. I love that song.
You like Bernie Ledden more than I do, then.
I do. That's definitely way more of a personal 10 out of 10 than like an objective 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And also I've known that song for a while. I heard that song like years ago, and ever since I heard it, I was like, "This is the Eagles? Are you kidding me? This is badass." I thought it was so cool. I thought it was such a cool song.
It is cool.
I thought it was
Take It to the Limit
cool
is
song.
a classic too, which I forgot to mention.
Yeah, Take It to the Limit is, and again, I think that also I'm kind of surprised I haven't brought up the background vocals so far, because oh good God, this maybe I think the Eagles and like the Beach Boys are like right here when it comes to like background like vocals as like all-time bands. Like, oh my God, I do have a problem with Don Henley sometimes, and like, and even on Long Road Out of Eden, like Joe Walsh will be singing a song and I'll be like,
Get out of here, Joe.
Get out of here.
Slinky Joe Walsh.
But oh my God, their background vocals every time. There's so many songs that I'm like, I don't really know how this happens. And the chorus hits and the background vocals just come in and save it. Throughout every album. And I think they shine on this album a lot. One of These Nights, the song is also a banger. Great song. Killer bass on that song too.
Yeah, Randy Meiser's the man. He might be the most slept on Eagles member.
Oh, for sure. I would say so. But yeah, this is I think that this is a really good album. I enjoyed it, and again, I kind of ranked these based off of what I listen to these albums all the way through again, and this is the first one that I definitely would. But yeah, I think that it was just from start to finish pretty much a pretty good song, or I mean pretty good album, a very good album all the way through. But there's one more that I like better. So yours.
So I guess this is my number 1. And my number 1 with an 8 out of 10, meaning I think it's pretty damn good. I think it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very good album. I got Desperado. And, I was aware of this one. Desperado's on it, which, obviously I know that song. That's a radio song. But as soon as it came in with the song Duel in Dalton, dude, I was like, and I heard that harmonic. I think I talked about this in our last video I made. Is that how much of I'm just a sucker for that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, we're in for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they just kind of take you on a journey, and it's like country rock Tommy, but not as good as Tommy.
Yeah, that's a good.
And I don't think I was actually reading that they were trying to come up with this idea, and then they ran out of ideas, so they had to cancel it. I was like, that's just great. And yeah, they just, I think from beginning to end, it took a while to warm up on me, but then I was like, you know what, I really like this. 21 is a really cool one from Bernie Ledden.
Again, I think thematically that probably is their best album.
Yeah, and it's so random. It's like that early in their career, I think they had their best idea, and I understand wanting to get away from that sound, but I just think they're so damn good at it. I think they're better at doing country than they are hard rock, really. I mean, like, what else is on there? This Desperado, that's a great Don Henley vocal, and he said that he wishes he could redo that. I'm like, man, that's fine how it is. Leave it. And then, they have the reprises and stuff, which I think are cool. Um, Damn it! What is the name of the Bertie Ledden the Randy Meisner song on there? The first one he sings is so good. Um, the only song I don't really like, which is one I knew, is Tequila Sunrise. It feels like a Peaceful Easy Feeling sequel, but not as good. Um, Bitter Creek is a cool one. Um, the the last song they do is pretty awesome. I love how they're reprising, Duel and Dalton, which is
That was cool.
it might be my favorite Eagles song. It's so good. And then they put a cover on there called Outlaw Man, which is by far Glenn Frey's best vocal performance. They murder that song. At the end there, I didn't even realize it was him singing, but he's just like going for it at the end there. And Randy Meisner is just tearing it up on the bass, like
Not to be mistaken by the Outlaw song.
yes,
By Kruiser.
Outlaw Man.
Mm.
But yeah, I was like, this lineup of the Eagles, these four guys, just were so damn tight. Despite them, wanting to go half and half in a different direction. I think they just put that aside here and just did one good album. I can't get it to 9 or 10 because I still think there's filler on here, judging by the fact that I can't remember the name of one of the songs. Yeah, and there was still like a few Glenn Frey like Fog Hat Rockers that I didn't fit well, but Outlaw Man is not one of them. That song is so awesome. Definitely Bernie Ledden's best stuff on this album.
Mm.
I think it's just amazing. Desperado is an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that depending on, I guess almost similar to Taylor Swift, depending on what genre you like most, your list is going to be totally different. Because I had it at 5.
Yeah.
But, you just said you like the country stuff more, and I like the soft rock stuff more.
Yeah. Yeah, which
Or I like the classic Eagles stuff more.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, but I think, obviously I like yacht rock a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think yacht rock is kind of an overhated genre as a whole.
I do
like
too.
a lot of
I love
it.
yacht rock.
It's so good, and obviously we're both pretty big hard rock fans. But I don't need that from the Eagles. Like you said, like their harmonies are so good, and
Yeah.
Don Henley can, when he wants to, he can just pull like an amazing song out of his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Despite his vocals,
He is a very good songwriter.
His vocals are polarizing, and
Yeah.
I like Don Henley. His solo stuff, I like a good amount. I've heard his couple, maybe at least one of his albums, and Voice of Summer. That's such an amazing song, So I like Don Henley. So
I like. Okay, so my number one.
yeah.
I guess it's not that
I
surprising.
knew this was going to be his number one.
Hotel California, and it's a 9 out of 10. I think that was the first time I had listened to it all the way through, and I was like, wow. I knew obviously Hotel California is the other 10 out of 10 I gave as a song, because it's Hotel California.
It's a great song.
Like, I don't really need to say it. I feel like explain why. But, again, I one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like you said, Don Henley, that is like a Don Henley album. But weirdly enough, his vocals just fit on pretty much every song. Like, on Hotel California, I truly don't know what it was. That was so different from, like, his other stuff with Hotel California. But every song that he sang on that was like, yeah, Glenn Frey couldn't do this. And even the Joe Walsh song, All the Maids in a Row, I liked that song. I thought he sounded great on that song because he was pushing, I could tell he was pushing his voice right to the limit, but he was never really pushing it over. And I think that is really good. But I think, yeah, Life in the Fast Lane, that is exactly how the Eagles should do a hard rock song. Not like the Fog Hat covers. Like I like it. It was just, yeah, it was really good. Again, the fact that was Joe Walsh's first album was pretty impressive to me. Again, that's why I was like, damn, this is Joe Walsh is raising or.
How much of that is Joe Walsh? Though?
I'm not saying that like it's his fault that the album, or it's his fault that the album's so good.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
He adds some licks in here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that is an example of a band's most popular work being their best. And yeah, I just think that I was a sucker. They got me. They got me hook, line, and sinker with that. But again, I don't think that. I think that it's not necessarily. Well, I think it's better than like a Desperado. But if I was into Southern rock more, I guess, then I would probably a Desperado one.
Yeah. But
that's my list.
Yeah. How well versed are you in like Joe Walsh solo stuff? Like.
Not really.
Yeah. I mean, like.
Maybe I will be now.
Yeah, but Joe Walsh, yeah. I mean, he is a wicked guitar player. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, he's
and,
really good.
James Gang, we're a cool band. You know, Funk 49 is a goddamn classic.
That is a classic.
And he was a weird pick for the Eagles, but how would you rank your Eagles members if you had to pick from worst to best shotgun round?
Oh my gosh. Just like based off everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really don't think that there's one that would be like definitive last.
Timothy B. Schmidt, though.
I like his voice though, but yeah probably Timothy B.
He's
Schmidt.
a great singer. He's a
really good singer.
That guy's voice was made for yacht rock.
Yeah, I think he's a good singer. And then after that, I'll put. And again, this is not just vocally, so this is like everything that they did. So after that, I'll put probably Meisner. And then we'll do Joe Walsh, Don Henley, Glenn Frey.
I'd probably go.
Oh, sorry, I forgot Don Felder. I'll put Don Felder in between Don Henley and Glenn Frey.
Yeah, Timothy B. Schmidt, he's cool. I would like to have heard more from him. I think he's a great vocalist. You know, his bass playing is fine. It's pretty good. I mean, they're both good. Joe Walsh, because as an Eagle, I think Joe Walsh is cool, but as an Eagle, I mean, he did make one of him and Don Felder. I'll put Don Felder after him because he is a great guitar player, but I don't think they're enough of a guitar band per se to really have the guitar players rise that much above.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably put. It's hard to say. Probably Glenn Frey because he has the most bad songs. Then I'd probably give it to Bernie Leading because I think him as an instrumentalist is pretty sick. And then I guess Don Henley's got to be number one.
He is like the Eagles.
Randy Meisner is super underrated. I think he's a cool guy. So yeah, that's the Eagles.
That's the Eagles.
So Jack, how overall closing thoughts on the Eagles?
I will say this: I'm more surprised that they're not talked about more when people say greatest bands of all time. Certainly greatest American bands of all time.
Yeah, I mean they gotta be up there.
They have got to be up there for greatest American bands ever. I think that they're kind of slept on for having a top 5 best-selling album ever. Like nobody really thinks about the Eagles like that, but I think that they really explored a lot of really cool sounds. Their evolution from their debut to the long run was cool. Had a
and Long Run Eden was like
Long Run Eden was like, why do I gotta listen to this, man? Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was way easier than Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it was definitely easier. You know, they grew on me after a couple listens on first albums. I still think they're a little overhyped because like for like the boomer crowd, they're definitely like these are one of the best bands ever, and I think they're very, very talented as individuals. I don't necessarily know how well they all come together at times, but when they hit hard.
Yeah.
Desperado is an amazing album. I think they have 4 pretty good albums. So yeah, I think they're a good band. It was a nice little exercise in their discography. You're definitely right. There's more to them than people think. You know.
Yeah.
Most people probably wouldn't know that they wrote like a country concept album. Are filled with so many styles on like those in between albums. You know, for most people, I think Hotel California is the album, but I think they're definitely more than that. So yeah. You know, I don't know. I think I respect them more now.
I definitely do. I certainly do.
Yeah, I never disliked them. I do still kind of stand by the fact that I think they make NPC music. But yeah, cool. I don't have really anything else to say. Stay tuned for next time. I don't know who we'll do next. We'll get around to it though, and
you decide. Leave a comment.
Yeah, but if
If it's bad, I'm not
If
gonna
we're
do
bad,
it.
we're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have a lot of real good ones to get to before we can
We've
start
done
doing
two.
bad ones.
We've done two.
There's
so-
still a lot of good stuff to get through before. And
Yeah.
we've been holding off on some big boys.
Some
I mean.
bangers.
Yeah,
this
we've
was
been
just
holding-
this was just an appetizer.
This was the
This
appetizer.
was a palate cleanser.
So, yeah, I don't know whether we're going to get to a big boy next or if we're going to keep doing appetizers. But
We'll see.
there's a lot of
There's a lot of
ways we can
decisions.
go with this.
A lot of decisions need to be made.
Yeah,
A lot
so,
of business to tend to.
yeah. Country rock, the Eagles. Country, soft rock, hard rock, yacht rock, bro country.
Shitty music.
Yeah,
at the end.
and the Eagles. Peace out.